Salutations, all my utopians out there. This is Global here on behalf of Global Utopia Sports. For those of you noticing this hoodie right here, we have a collaboration with Champ Sports. And as you can see, we have a boxer, and the glove is not actually a boxing glove, it's a brain, meaning train your mind. If you like the design, if you like the sweater, the collaboration, here you got the patent, Champ Sports. Go ahead and get yourself one on globalutopia.org. The title of this artwork is called Molded Ambition. Alrighty, so with that being said, I think it's only appropriate that I pay homage and show some respect to the current NBA champions, Denver Nuggets. First off, this franchise is a very storied franchise. They've had a lot of quality players and just never could quite seem to get over the proverbial hump. Dating back to one of the greatest shot blockers in the game well, actually, let's take it even further back, Mohamed Abdul-Rauf, who was a mini Steph Curry. A lot of people scoffed at Phil Jackson when he made the comparison, but it's extremely valid. Obviously, he was out of the league for other reasons and causes and beliefs. He was kind of a Kaepernick type of his own. Very gifted, very talented, multi-level scorer. Guy you should watch if for you up-and-coming guards who really want to figure out whom to pattern their game after. Antonio McDyess, a 6'9", 240-pound, just athletic, off-the-charts power forward who had a mid-range game to match and was just a complete lethal weapon. But unfortunately was with them at a difficult time. Even matter of fact, let's take it back. Mark Price. I think a lot of people, don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. This guy was a flashy gunner who could also get that ball out when he needed to as a distributor. Dikembe Mutombo, all-time greatest shot blocker, all-time great shot blocker, and what his contributions were. And now a great politician in his native land. 7'2", 250, fearless. There wasn't a bucket he wasn't trying to go after, and just a relentless, fierce, rim protector who helped Allen Iverson get to the NBA Finals that one year, and where they got a win against the Lakers. With that being said, all roads led to this moment. Oh, and last but not least, Carmelo Anthony. I mean, just in terms of just overall cerebral score. One of the most prolific, gifted scorers the game has ever seen. It had to be bittersweet because he really did help relaunch the Denver Nuggets organization. They changed their unis. They did so many things for this franchise. He did so much for this franchise in terms of putting them on the map and introducing them to commercial mainstream adoption. They were an afterthought up until then. Salute to Melo and his contributions, showing the league, displaying them on a national level with all that momentum and buzz he had coming out of Syracuse, and prior to that, just having the whole East Coast behind him for that matter. I don't know why, of all jersey numbers, they had to give his number away to Jokic, and Jokic could have chose any number. I don't know why the Denver Nuggets were okay with his number going to Jokic. Maybe there was a little bit of hurt behind him wanting to leave, but ultimately that doesn't justify his number being given away, considering he made sure that the Nuggets walked away with something when he decided to not be a part of a rebuild during his prime. But that's a topic for another day. I never understood it. I just can't help it. There's some things in life I'm never going to understand. The resentment towards him is one of them, in terms of if you're anybody around Denver. With that being said, the way they've built this franchise from the top down, it's Golden State Warrior similar like. It's very Golden State Warrior like, because they were at that fork in the road the same way the Warriors were when the Mississippi Bullet, aka Monte Ellis, was the franchise point guard, the closest thing to AI we had seen post AI's career, and Allen Iverson. And wow, that's crazy to have him mentioned twice in one recording. With that being said, they moved off of Monte and went with Steph, and obviously the rest was history in a similar kind of situation. Nurkic was Jusuf Nurkic was a very, very gifted big man who could post up. He was a giant, but there was times where it seemed like he was kind of taking his shine for granted. He was a 7'2", 280-pound just wall, and he could post, he could face up, he could see the floor. Amazing passer and a fierce presence in the paint. And he was basically a Luke Longley on steroids. He's what Luke Longley probably would have been had he been able to be in a more advantageous situation where he could, spread his wings. But obviously, when you're playing with a lot of people's, known as the GOAT, Michael Jordan, it's kind of difficult to be able to display your talents. With that being said, they passed the torch to Jokic, and the rest was history. Pieces just started to fall into place. They got Jamal Murray. They got Michael Porter, who, I have a big problem with franchises talking about Jokic's MVP. The year those guys were out, understandable. But when they returned, the way people were campaigning, my definition of an MVP is someone who wills his team without much talent, and without him, they wouldn't win anything. Now, obviously, I don't want to know what the Nuggets look like without Jokic. He's just he influences so many aspects of the game. He's a true real-life gamer. Don't worry about combine numbers. Don't worry about individual attributes. Just when it's time to lace him up and start the clock, that man is about business. And he means it in every sense of the imagination. You see even how he dresses prior to game time when he's walking to the arena. With that being said, there was some real turbulence, starting with, questions on Michael Porter when they drafted him. It was no question about his game or his talent, but the scouting report was like he might need 2 years. What franchise has the luxury to afford an individual player 2 years if he wasn't worth it? They knew if he stays healthy, the sky's the limit. He can be in that discussion, just a tier below, obviously. I won't say he's Kevin Durant, but he could be in that discussion of, in this era, he can be considered a top 5 small forward with the Tatums, with the Durants, in terms of just, there's no shot he can't make. There's no play he can't commit, he can't do. So Jamal Murray, the same thing. When you have a big man like Jokic who can see the floor, you can afford to give him the room to make mistakes as he transitions into trying to be a natural one. Even though we are in the era of combo guards, Dame Lillard, Trae Young, Steph Curry, 2 guards masquerading as ones. The thing that I found very unique about Jamal Murray, though, was he came in there with a very, he's got the temperament. He's got that kind of temperament and resolve about him, and his patience, and he's just such a coachable guy. It's the overall just demeanor that he brings, that all good things worked out for him. He's a 3-level scorer, quick first step, great dribble, great. He's got the ball on the string. Playmaking, obviously, that's not what he's known for directly, but when you can get a bucket, and as long as you can identify the double team, which is pretty much the story of today's point guards. We don't have those Andre Miller, Mark Jackson, pure distributors. That's why you're seeing such a struggle right now. In every offseason, a team could use a Chris Paul. The Ricky Rubios, the Chris Pauls, the Rondos. You don't find those in the league. You can't find them. The closest thing you might get is a Ish Smith. So the reality is, teams are molding combo guards into ones. The Pistons did it with Chauncey. Chauncey was another guy who, he's not going to floor you with crazy assist numbers, but he makes the plays he needs to when he needs to. He was a system point guard, but there was no question about it. Chauncey Billups was on a whole nother level. He was a pure general and a pure leader. He's a real leader of men, a real captain. He commands respect when he gets in the room. He's the kind of guy that you add a plate when he walks in the weight room, everyone's strength goes up +5. Everyone's going to add an extra wheel on the barbell, on the dumbbells, whatever. They're going to add some weight just because of the inspiration and the presence that he has. With that being said, Mike Malone, I never understood what happened in Sacramento. There was a time where Boogie Cousins, DeMarcus Cousins, was the best big man in basketball by a landslide, and he was running through coaches. He was deemed a problem child, and then Mike Malone came, and he was the first guy to advocate for Mike Malone. And I don't understand what the hell the Sacramento Kings were thinking. I don't know any other way to word it that way, but they let him go. And you just knew he was going to, because DeMarcus Cousins gave him the ultimate cosign. And that guy don't seem like he didn't like nobody. He was just angry at the world. Part of his mystique, part of his game, but that was the way he carried himself. He was a throwback kind of guy. He was a Charles Oakley, Anthony May. He's a disciple of that product, of that tree, in that lineage, like where he plays angry and he's not looking to make friends. And any slight disrespect, he's gonna, he's gonna go see what that's about. And so he had the old school goon mentality mixed with the actual Hall of Fame type of skill set. And for him to co-sign Mike Malone and to appreciate him so much, it makes you feel like, man, when all the dust settles, you hope DeMarcus Cousins lands some type of coaching job somewhere. Or, I mean, yeah, some type of assistant position coaching opportunity, be on someone's bench, because he definitely identified early that Mike Malone was a great coach. And for the Kings to let him walk was just, what they say, you know what I mean? What one will take for granted, the other one will treasure. And so that's exactly what happened in Denver. They weathered the storm through injuries. They never turned their back on each other. No slick comments through the media about someone needing to play injured or anything through injuries. And guess what? Ultimately, what ended up happening, they finally achieved it. They got themselves, there was some questions even with the cap. You knew they were onto something the year before when one of their front office personnel went to Minnesota, and Minnesota had to give Denver some draft picks, okay? And some of the subtle moves they made, honestly, I'm going to tell you, I didn't see this day coming. When Jerry and Grant had left, I thought their window had closed, because the guy they needed to replace was Paul Millsap. And Paul Millsap had a tremendous career, but they caught him at the tail end. And when they swapped out Millsap and got, not directly, but got, when they replaced Millsap with Gordon, then went and said, okay, we got cap to manage. A guy who I called from afar, he was the third option. They had, well, let me talk about the people that are actually getting burned. Will Barton, a 6'5" guy, hybrid, shooting guard, small forward. He can rebound, he can assist, and he can get to the basket, and he can hit some buckets. He can make some jump shots. They had to decide, do we pay him? They had to make some decisions on Torrey Craig. They had Malik Beasley, who never even cracked the rotation really consistently. Gary Harris, who's in Orlando, getting $84 million. I knew, though, I'm going to tell you something. I knew Malik Beasley had something to contribute in this league. I seen it. And I just couldn't understand, they were just too much depth. They were loaded. That's why they could afford to go after a Michael Porter and wait out. They were one of the few teams that had so much depth, and they were like, we can take the gamble, take all the time you need, well, almost all the time you need, and we're going to go ahead and just be patient with you. And he arrived to the perfect situation. And their common thing is they have a lot of versatility. They have a lot of interchangeability. They can swap. They can put Porter at the 4, put Jokic at the 5, Porter at the 4. I'm sorry, actually I'm forgetting, they got Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon, he's 6'8", 6'10", but he can jump out the gym. You got Michael Porter, who's 6'10". You got Murray, who's 6'5". Caldwell Pope is another 6'4", but he's scrappy. He's extremely scrappy. And that's the thing. They swapped those guys out and got Caldwell Pope on a bargain deal. You know what I mean? For what he's contributing. Caldwell Pope rises to the occasion. Everyone wants to keep talking about the Lakers. In Detroit, he had some games in the playoffs in his career where it was like, wow, this guy's, you know what I mean? He's shooting for dear life out there. And so the Nuggets just did such a great job of just supplementing different players out. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we can't afford this, so we'll swap that Jeff Green for Jerry and Grant was just brilliant. It was just absolutely brilliant of their front office. So the thing about this unit is these guys can be a factor for many years to come. They're going to have to pay now. They're going to have to pay some people, okay? But they're in a great market, a thriving economy over there in Denver. They got the personnel. Everything is looking great. A coach who's just very much relatable. He doesn't seem like, knock on wood, that he's ever going to get drowned out by that locker room. And I just want to commend them for everything that they've done so far this year. You know, congratulations. It's well deserved. We're going to see what next year holds. Obviously, there was that journey helped a lot. There was no Steve Adams. There was no Zion. Volusianis, the Pelicans didn't make it. So there wasn't a lot of big-time big men. You know, they swept the Lakers, but there was a key piece that was missing this year, and that was Dwight Howard. And so, and he's over there wherever he's at. So he, you know, he definitely had his, you know, cruising thing, you know, cruising he's in the HOV lane, so to speak, this year to the finals. You still got to play the games, but I can't wait to see what the future holds, and if they can, win a couple more chips, in the next 4 or 5 years, because they certainly, this is the era now where you got the G League, you got second round picks, you have international talent. There's many ways you can now find bargain players who are trying to make a name for themselves, not to mention just situations like what's going on, what happened with DiVincenzo, where the Warriors caught him on a bargain on a 1-year deal. Now he proved it. Now he's going to go get paid. There's so many different tricks to the trade and ways to continue to fill your roster out substantively, all the while sitting there putting out a contender. So, as I said again, congratulations to the 2023 Denver Nuggets. We can't wait to see what the future holds. Global out.